What's up, beautiful people? This is episode 49 of An Untold Narrative. We are nearing the half-century mark of episode 50, coming probably in the next week or two. In the meantime, I took a little bit of a break, and this week's episode is going to be me reflecting on hosting my own first solo art show just about 10 days ago on October 1st and 2nd, which was also my 30th birthday, and what I learned from it. More specifically, we'll deep dive into the 5 things that I've learned. I've done now a couple episodes of different things that I've done over the past couple years where I do them, I go hard into it, very extreme, and usually there's always some sort of learning or extraction out of it, which is kind of why I do them, because I always find myself learning something new. And so I figured I'd try to educate people if I can, based on my fuck-ups or my successes. And hosting a solo art show is one of those things that I never thought that I could do, and I would just say to anybody that you can do it too. It's actually not that difficult. You just need to plan it and work really fucking hard towards it, and you can figure it out. I was super fortunate to get in touch with somebody in Worcester, Massachusetts, where I reside, where there is a permanent pop-up. It's called the Worcester Pop-Up. It's at the JMac Center, and they basically don't charge artists of any medium, singers, songwriters, musicians, artists, painters, sculptors, whatever, for the space. You just have to pay for whatever it costs or whatever type of event that you want, but the space itself is available for artists, which is super cool. So thank you to the JMac and the Pop-Up in advance, because without that space, it really wouldn't have been possible. Pretty much the idea was, I've been painting for the past 2.5 years or so, and I was in my studio recently just tripping over canvases. I had so much work lying around, because I don't really do art for the sake of selling it. I don't do it for that monetary purpose. I do it really just as a creative expression and to get my mind off of work, sometimes just to get out, just to do something different, to go to my studio. It's within walking distance to get out of my apartment during COVID. So there's a number of reasons why I do it, and I just built up this massive collection of work, which once I started looking at it, it actually divided itself up into about 7 different micro collections of work. So on display, and please check out all the photos, which will be on my website eventually, from the event, where you can see all the different collections and all the bodies of work. So once I realized that there was so much work that I wanted to display out, I started thinking about social media and how artwork really, or any sort of creative medium, or any photo of anybody, lives and gravitates towards people's attention for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then it's gone, and nobody really cares about it. Nobody really thinks about it. At most, it's on people's mind for 24 to 48 hours, and then it's gone. My idea was to create an environment for people to come and enjoy, meet some new people of different creative backgrounds, build relationships again coming out of the pandemic, be in person with people, and just have kind of a unique type of event. And I'm so fortunate and thankful and proud of the amount of people that came and drove out to visit. I know that I live in Worcester, Mass. I don't know too many other friends of mine even who live in this city. But thank you from driving from Pennsylvania, from New York City, from New Hampshire, from Boston, from Rhode Island, and everywhere in between. And then obviously my best bud, David Maudsley, who flew from Portland, Oregon, because he's a G. And so thank you to everybody who came out, because it was a lot of fun. But that's really what it's about, right? It's not about the art. It's not even about selling. It's not about any of that like traditional sense of why you would host an event. It was really about bringing people together and building community. Without that foundation of good relationships, I think a lot of us can agree that we wouldn't be anywhere in our careers, or aren't able to progress in our careers, because we don't have strong relationships. And so I'm super thankful for all the people who came and supported. My parents and my extended family came out on Saturday. We just had a grand old time. A weekend to remember for sure. Before I dive into the 5 key things that I've learned, really, I do want to touch on the fact that I've spent the past 8-9 days, week plus, burnt out, completely toasted, like just burnt fucking toast. It took a lot to put the event on. I did it all myself. I had to create graphics for it. I had to create events on Facebook, on discovercentralmass.com. I had to go to the print shops to print these things. I had to, pay for tablecloths. I had to pay for catering, the bar service. All of these things were on me, and that was a lot. And then on top of that, I was finishing collections of art in the meantime as well, juggling my full-time position, juggling, a number of other side projects, doing episodes of my podcast. In the month of September, I launched 3 episodes in between all of that. And it really was a lot, and it took a lot out of me. And I've spent the past week just kind of reflecting and thinking and not working and kind of just trying to enjoy things at a slower pace, which has done me a lot of good. I'm hopeful, even in recording this today, it's Labor Day. No, not Labor Day, Columbus Day. Yeesh, we're off. October 11th, I believe it is, Monday. And, just thinking about what can be done the rest of the year, what was done prior to this point in the year. We've got a couple more months left, and just, taking the time now to build up my energy and get back into a creative mode to keep tackling things for the rest of 2021. So with that being said, the 5 key things that I've learned. I think the first is that you can do it. I hinted at it a little bit earlier in the episode. Art in general has this, what's the word? Aura around it, where it's very prestigious. Getting into a gallery is tough. Putting on an art show, if you're not a famous artist, I love the art that I create. Do I think it's the best in the world? No, but do I think it can offer people emotion and brighten up their homes? Absolutely. And so art is subjective, but it yet has these walls or barriers that are associated to it from a background perspective. And I'm just trying to figure out unique ways of kind of lowering those walls or breaking them down a little bit, and just showcasing the people that you can do it if you really wanted to. And with a little bit of planning, with some, reaching out to services or sponsors that'll help or whatever it is, the pop-up, the space itself was the fundamental part for me. Everything else I figured out. But pretty much anybody can do it. You have to think about it. You have to plan it. It took me about 2 months to plan. So I had the original idea at the beginning of August, is when I reached out about it. So I planned it in 2 months and pulled everything together. So if you're considering doing any sort of show, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. But pretty much the first thing that I learned is that anybody can do it. The second thing that I learned was, don't do it for 4 hours. On October 1st, which was a Friday night, and on Saturday during the day, I held the event for 4 hours each day. 4 hours is a long time to stand around. A long time. Now, the gallery can be open, right? The gallery can be open for public visitation if you want. But myself, I was like, oh, I'll be there for 4 hours, thinking that originally I wanted 5 hours and they talked me down. I really wish I did 3 hours, 2.5 hours, both Friday night and on Saturday. 4 hours was way too long. It was a massive lesson learned. I actually wish somebody guided me to discover that before I did it, because it's just a lot of energy. And I think that's part of the contributing factor to the burnout over the past week is, it was 4 hours on Friday night, Manny, my DJ, my man here in Worcester, thank you for helping me out and just making amazing music for everybody Friday night. But even he was like, yo, I misread the ad. I thought it was 3 hours, not 4 hours. Yo, he's like I would have charged a pretty penny for 4 hours. So lesson learned to not do it for 4 hours. I think that was a very, very long time. So I would highly recommend people to look at 2.5, 3 hours at most if you're trying to put on an event like this. The third thing that I learned was I definitely did it right, and a lot of people were thankful for this, and I just took a shot in the dark because I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Have a spectrum of prices for people. Not everybody can afford your art regardless of what the costs are. My art ranged, the actual physical art ranged from $150 all the way up to $1,000. This was my most expensive piece. And each collection kind of had different price breakouts, right? So, my first one was in the 150 to 200. Others were in the 200s, others were in the 300s. Couple main ones were in the 400s, and then I had one piece that was in the extreme 1000, and a couple at like $599. But offering up that range for the art, but then also I had t-shirts, so I screen printed and made t-shirts for the event. I had prints, so I had to buy prints or make up prints for people to buy at $28, which is much, much cheaper or less expensive than what I sell even on my Etsy. So I sell my prints on my Etsy every day, but I sell them at a higher cost because I don't sell a lot of them, and I think that's what they're worth. But for the event, I figured I'd offer something a little bit lower tiered or lower price point. At $28, the t-shirts were $32. So having that range from $30 all the way up to $1,000, I mean, it really, regardless of what type of buyer you are or what type of supporter you are, you can afford it. And I think that was very successful. I still had a couple leftover things. I sold some artwork. Obviously, it's hundreds of dollars, so not everybody can afford that, but I'm very thankful for the amount of people who bought prints and bought t-shirts. And so, yeah, I think just the third thing is just offering up a large price point differential in things that people can support and purchase from you if they want to. Just to run off of that, because this wasn't really a point that I highlighted specifically, but I also learned that galleries charge percentages, right? I got into my first gallery in March of this year, so a little bit earlier in 2021, and they were going to take 35%, I think it was, if any artwork sold. Now, artwork didn't sell, but this space took 25%, so much lower. Definitely like early on artists, that's a good percentage takeaway. My goal at the end of the day, in pure honesty, was just to break even. I probably spent $1,500 on the event, so I definitely broke even and made a couple dollars on it. Nothing dramatic that's life-changing by any means, shape, or form. But again, I didn't do it for the money. But I think the important takeaway is just offering up a lot of different price points for people. The fourth thing that I learned that was really critical, and it has to do a lot with the community aspect of it, is to talk to everybody. It's easy to talk to the people that you know. It's harder sometimes to talk to the people that you don't know or people off the street. I met this woman who came in from a town nearby who didn't know anybody, who was by herself. Younger woman, just came in cold turkey, and she's like, I saw this online and I wanted to come and I like just hang out with some people. And I saw her looking at the art, and it was so important for me to go up to her and just introduce myself and say hello, and then introduce her to other friends of mine so she felt welcomed and at home. Like, I've done a good job building up relationships and friendships. For somebody to go to an event by themselves, that takes a lot. And I think a major takeaway for anybody is that to make sure that you talk to everybody, make sure that you appreciate everybody showing up for you. Even I posted it in my apartment complex, and then this couple came Friday night from the apartment, and they moved in a week prior, and they're like, oh my God, this is so cool, and just like hanging out with them, and saying that I hope to see them around the complex. And you just never know. And I think that is a huge aspect of relationship building is just, reach out, put your hand out, say thank you for being here, talk to people, make sure you talk them through your work, make sure you give announcements. I definitely got cut off on Friday night, the second announcement, because I may or may not have had a little bit too much to drink. But just saying thanks, I think it's super important, and then talking to everybody. And the last thing that I'll take away from the event or being able to host it is, and this isn't a cocky or an arrogant or an ego-driven comment, it's a confident comment of, I think people care more about the artist than the art. And I own a hoodie from this brand Secret Walls, where they do these art battles. If you've never heard of Secret Walls, you should definitely look them up. And they sent me this hoodie, and on the back of the hoodie it says support local artists. And I think that's so important, and I think the only way for people to really support local artists is to get involved in their communities and start understanding what the artist is going through and what the work means to them. Because again, art is subjective, and it means something different to everybody who looks at it. And it's not about the art, it's about the artist. And I think I'm so humbled with the amount of people that came to show love, that I know that I've done at least a tiny bit right to be able to pull that many people together, to come together and talk and share stories and just build community even stronger. And I maybe I subconsciously knew that. I always thought that like the art was good, but I think the artist is better. And I think that's really, really important. And people should look into and do their research on the artists whenever you're trying to buy something new or support somebody. Definitely look into the artists. I think that's my last key takeaway. I know I've been rambling for probably 15 minutes or so on this podcast now. It's probably a relaxing day for me, so my energy isn't over the top. Usually sometimes I'm very over eccentric on these podcasts with specific guests. But hopefully you enjoyed this, my 5 key learnings of hosting a solo art show and exhibition. And if you're listening to this and you came to show love, thank you times a million. It means the world to me and back. And yeah, I can't wait to see what I do on my next birthday. I was talking to somebody last year on my 29th birthday. I dropped a clothing line. I cut and sewed an entire clothing line. On my 30th, I host a solo art show in a gallery. What's 31 got? What's 41 got? What's 101 got? I don't know, but it's going to be exciting. And I'm super thankful, and I'm very fortunate to be in this position. And again, thank you to everybody who's listening now. Like, subscribe, share if you give a shit or if you gained anything out of this. And then thank you times a million to everybody who came out to support. With that, that's the episode 49 of An Untold Narrative. It's just me today. We'll be back next week with episode 50. Not going to reveal the guest just yet, but thanks.